Hello, we're live. Welcome to Direct Joy. My name's Sheree. I am a psychotherapist and psychotherapeutic counsellor, psychologist, mum, fiance, Christian, dog owner, chicken owner, Christian owner? What am I? I'm talking really quickly. Let's slow down. I'm Sheree, first and foremost, and this is Direct Joy. So Direct Joy is my offering that I started last year, a free live stream with replays available to offer some emotional, mental, cognitive, physical response to some of the stuff that goes on in the world. From my experience working in the NHS, in charities, in private practice, with ecotherapy, and just an opportunity really to open up a discussion around mental health, emotional health and well-being, and what that looks like, what we want to explore. So it's for your questions, to hear your answers in sometimes this crazy world that we live in. And today was due to be the 21st Direct Joy. And it was due to be about disappointment and attachment styles. And I was planning this, and I had some interesting process go on because I've already recorded this. And why am I doing it again? What's going on? What was not good enough about the one that I recorded a couple of weeks back? Why am I doubting myself? Why am I going back on that? So today I have decided, just a little while ago, not long, to show up as me and do the thing that I talk about so often, but do it live. And I will post up the video of Direct Joy 21 about disappointment, so you're not disappointed, and about attachment styles, so you can attach to any of the ideas that you feel helpful. But today I thought it was really helpful to have a Direct Joy about showing up. And that's a huge topic, and it's one that I love to talk about because it relates to every part of who we are, because we are required to show up in so many different ways, and therapy really is about how we show up, what repeat patterns are playing out, what styles, what we choose to talk about, whether we're solution focused, whether we have a long-term, open-term, years worth, months worth, weeks worth, hours worth therapeutic journey. And what does that actually mean for us when we choose to show up in different ways? And is that a conscious choice or is that an unconscious choice? And who are we, and what does that then mean for our identity, both internally and as we show up for the world? And so where should we go with that? Where should we go with showing up? So I'm going to start with me showing up, and because I think we can only talk from our own experience, and me showing up can sometimes be really, really hard. Showing up as myself, it's something that, what does that really mean? What is realness? Where do we find ourselves in the corner? And if we are in the corner, if I am in the corner, am I comfortable there? Do I choose to be there? Do I want to be there? How have I got there? Do I even need to think about it? Or is it just okay? Do I need to have a tangle with myself about that? Or can I show up as I am? And that be okay, enough, brilliant as it is? What's it like when we get in the way of ourselves in showing up? Beyond, who, as you know, I absolutely love his work, talks about the fact of attacks on linking. It's a really awesome paper. It's a very in-depth paper, but it's one that's definitely, if you're into therapy in any way and you are interested in the research and the back story of how stuff works and how we show up, Beyond's paper is absolutely imperative to read, because it talks about the fact that we sabotage our own closeness to links, because unconsciously getting close is hard. Making ourselves vulnerable is hard and challenging, and therefore in the therapeutic relationship that's going to be hard too, right? We're going to attack that linking. We're going to sabotage, self-sabotage, attack the linking, repeat patterns showing out, and we have no idea why, what's going on. Why do I always start dating then lose? Why do I have broken marriages? Why do I suffer with friendships? And taking a step back from that sense of why, that sense of the content of what's showing up in the individual relationship pods, or in the in the content, in the stuff that shows up, can be enormously helpful, because then we notice our own offering, we notice our own impact, we notice our own, oh, I did that, and that's hard to work with. And when we have someone, anyone, a group of people that we feel we can properly show up and be real in that moment, in that present moment, when we can turn around and say, do you know what? Wow, that's really interesting you said that, because I have that experience too, or I had that experience. And you might not want to go into detail at that time, at that party, at that bar, at that coffee machine at work, in the playground. You might not want to go into detail, but you may just share. And to share is to show up. And if we show up, and we can show up in our realness to ourselves, what we can then do with other people is create links. And however scary, because we're then vulnerable, actually, if we do it from an internal place of where we start, and we notice where we don't show up real, or we hide back, that sense of coming into the cave, where we can put our head out the door and say, do you know what, it's okay to share that with that person. It's okay to share that with myself. It's okay to allow that level of vulnerability of showing up. We can then start the healing place. And what that actually sometimes means is showing up and saying, I don't have a Scooby-Doo. I do not have a clue. I do not know what the answer is. And actually, in my experience, personally, professionally, in all which ways, that's the hardest one. The hardest one is showing up not knowing. Because when we show up not knowing, we're triggered all over the shop. Because to not know, we're faced with the vulnerability of not knowing, the vulnerability of the original issue, and also the fact that we don't have a clue what potentially could be the outcome, because we don't know. So we're in this kind of chasm of in-between space of not knowing. And even thinking about it, I don't know about you, but if you take a moment to think about times when you haven't known, it's pretty scary, and can take just that kind of element of madness of, oh, okay, I can feel, I'm going like this with my hands. The anxiety, I know I hold a lot of anxiety in my hands. So that sense of anxiety, I'm gripping onto what I do know. But actually, when we try to let go, when we try to share, when we try to receive a different answer, we need to place our ego, we need to place our familiar understandings of things, which is our ego place. And I don't mean that in an egotistical sense. I mean our ego in the sense of our psychological structure. We need to place our ego on the back burner and allow our hearts to lead. Allow our hearts to say, oh, okay, what am I open to? What do I not know? And I whisper, because actually it usually is a whisper. it is this sense of, oh, okay, what is my understanding? Am I safe now? And by am I safe now, it's that sense of, okay, I'm being triggered because I don't know, and I don't know the answer to the problem or thing that's happening. But actually, where can I go with this? Where are my boundaries? Where are my safety limits? Where are my, how risk averse am I to opening up? So let's go for an example. COVID, right? COVID's a really great example of how we all respond differently, but we all have a, where do I want to go with this? How safe do I feel? And this is an immediate safety thing, right? In the sense of our health, of an actual pandemic, right? And so how do I actually know that I feel safe? How do I know? I can take all these information, government, family, guidelines from schools, guidelines from work, guidelines. Perfect. I know them, I have them. That gives me my safety. But how do I actually feel too? What's my intuition saying? Now, it's not going to be against, probably, those guidelines. It may be. But how do you work with those things? How are you putting them in your pot and baking them up and reducing that anxiety, reducing the grip to be able to invite and allow a space of something different coming in? One of the sayings is let go, let God. And that sense of letting go when something is really, really, really hard actually allows you to process it. It allows you to think, feel, move your body, move past, discuss, letting go. And it's the last thing we do, right? The last thing we do is to surrender. But actually, in that moment, that's the thing that allows us to really show up in our truth. And I mean truth, in not factual truth, in our actual being truth. Who am I? I didn't need to record I didn't need to show up live with the direct joy that I've already recorded. Come on, Shri. I needed to show up real. I needed to show up and show up, because that's the hardest thing about therapy. That's the hardest thing about being human, showing up, being vulnerable, saying, hey, I don't know. You know, we have that thing, don't we? No question is a stupid question. But actually, sometimes we're already stupid asking questions. You know, is it okay to say, hey, can I have a discount? Is it okay to turn around and say, hey, I've got a question? Is it okay to turn around and say, hey, I don't understand, or hey, I'm lacking, or hey, wow, your reality is totally different to mine. How did you get there? Because the most interesting person in the room is the most interested. I love that saying so much. I love it. I'm sure I've shared it with you a million times. So how do we enable ourselves to stop and get out of our own way? How do we actually know that we are showing up real? Lots of stuff triggers us, lots of stuff. And that's, that's just being human. So navigating all that stuff is normally tough, let alone when stuff happens, when health problems hit, when financial problems hit, when family stuff happens, even when it's good, right? Because even good stuff comes with anxiety levels. Even good stuff, it's like, am I excited or am I anxious? Am I both? The feeling can be so similar. Sometimes it's really hard to know what our real truth is. It's really hard to be in integrity with ourselves, let alone with somebody else. Let alone when there's relationship problems, let alone when there's politics at work, let alone when there's politics in the playground, let alone when, enormous things happen or small things mount up. And this is where life can be really hard. This is where having support is enormously beneficial. Communities coming together, families coming together and having real, honest, in integrity conversations about stuff that is maybe forgotten, maybe secretive, maybe doesn't want to be spoken about. But, needs to be. And the more that we get this stuff out, the more we pass it through. You know, it's a bit like when you've got an infection. The more water you drink, the more you flush it through. Keep drinking water. Allow the flow, allow the cleanse, allow it. And we forget that, don't we? We forget this all the time. We forget that we need this valuable space to allow us to know what our integrity is. Journals, conversation, dreams, daydreaming, therapy, prayer, meditation, exercise, walking, baking, reading, spending time with animals. It might be that allows you that space to find the integrity in you in that moment. It is a small moment, but it allows you to be able to let go a bit, to be you in the fullest. And that, I think, is awesome. And that's the opportunity, because actually maybe even if we set aside the fact that showing up allows us to be closer to others, showing up for ourselves allows us to be closer to ourselves. And we get in our own way a lot. I do. I think sometimes we find ourselves like a cat chasing our tail. And when we take a moment to stop, when we take a moment to take a breath, when we take a moment to think, do I really feel okay with that? When we take a moment to laugh at ourselves, like I did when I knew I had the recording on my phone of the 21st Direct Joy, it allows us to move forward to the 22nd. And it's not about counting up, it's not about achieving, it's just about living. And I want to live for that growth. And sometimes that means going through the dark stuff too. And yeah, having that conversation with ourselves. So the one thing we didn't talk about today was shame, because that's one of the things that's really hard in showing up for ourselves, is the shame that comes up with it. And that's the deeper stuff. So we're going to go there next week. My internet is fixed, so Direct Joy is now able to be direct and fast, and hopefully this is secure and awesome and blah blah blah, because it needs to be. So next week, same time, Tuesday, 12 o'clock, I look forward to discussing shame. I'll think about a better title. However, shame is such a huge opportunity for us to slow down and think and feel and allow whatever it might be. So until next week, thank you for all of you who've joined me live. It's lovely to see you all. It's lovely to see such familiar and new faces too. And thank you for the likes, because, you know, it's always good to have a like, isn't it? And we're all human. And I love those of you who watch the replay as well. So thank you for showing up and watching the replay. Please do get in touch with any questions, to say hi. If you're thinking about any of the work, there is no pressure. I never pressure into doing any of the work. It's, you know, letting go and letting God. That's how I work. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you next week, if not before. Take care. Wishing you all lots of grace and peace and joy for the rest of the week ahead and the rest of the day ahead. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Mwah.